Macros, Mindset, and Muscles.
I'm Coach James.
And I'm Coach Brittany.
We're here to give you the truth about health and fitness.
No gimmicks, no bullshit, just facts.
All right, welcome back, Phoenix fam. This is James on the mic. I know you're here to listen to Brittany, but I'm jumping on here because you don't get to hear me too much. But anyway, hi, Brittany. How are you?
I'm good, James. How are you?
I'm doing well. So well. I was so hyped up that she was going to let me start this that I was like, I had 8 Mile going on in my head.
No, we had to give him a whole pep talk and like play motivational music, Billy Allsbrook.
Yeah. I had one shot, one moment.
So he could get hyped up enough to do the introduction for once.
I captured it.
Hey, you know what? There's a first time for everything. In 32 episodes.
Killed it.
Yeah.
Sorry to make y'all wait this long.
Welcome.
You're welcome.
All right. So do you want to tell everybody what we're talking about today?
Man, we are going to be... Hang on, I'm trying to read upside down.
Okay, maybe don't do that.
Stop. Stop. Okay, all right. I got waved off the play.
Okay, I'll tell everybody what we're going to talk about
right,
since you can't read upside down. And then you're going to read the top of it, and you're going to tell everybody everything in the episode is about before we even get to it.
Yeah, I'll ruin it.
All right, so we've been talking a lot about, mindset and, why you should lift weights and all that good stuff. We haven't done a macro episode in a while.
Macros.
So today we are going to tell you how to stop making the 5 most common mistakes when tracking macros. Like, these are 5 things that you need to stop doing in order to see success with macros. And I want to start this off, I want to say this before we get into this topic. Not everybody needs to track macros. Not everybody does track macros. If you have eating disorders, disordered eating, history with that type of stuff, this may not be for you. So if this is you, don't listen to this. It's not applicable to you.
Yeah, watch a different episode.
But if you are tracking macros, and this could even be applicable to if you're just counting calories, you need to stop doing these 5 things. And we're going to jump right into it. Number 1, you need to stop using cups, tablespoons, or even eyeballing portion sizes.
This is very common.
It's so common.
This is a very important one. It's very easy to get off track using this type of measurement. Everybody's got a different idea of what a scoop looks like, what a cup looks like.
Yeah, I mean, we could both take a half a cup measurement, right? You could have 1/2 cup and I could have 1/2 cup, and we could fill it up and it'll come 2 different weights.
Completely different weight.
It's not a super accurate form of measurement when you're trying to track macros, which is about accuracy. Yeah. You should absolutely be weighing your food portions. When you're tracking macros, again, this is not applicable to everybody. This is specifically for those people tracking macros and trying to do it the right way. Okay, you should weigh everything in grams. Grams is the most accurate.
100%. Even one that's it's kind of common is even with protein powders, it comes with a scoop, and you're like, okay, well, the label says a scoop is this many grams of protein. Well, measure that out. Put that on the scale and see if that's actually accurate. Some of them,
the scoop will be way heavier.
Sometimes they're telling you to have a rounded scoop. I've seen that on directions before, and how accurate is that? If you're not actually weighing it, it's hard to get that exact amount that you're looking for. You may be over, you may be under, you might be twice over. Gatorade, that's another example where it comes with a scoop, and you're like, oh, this is 1 serving. No, it's more like 2.5 servings.
More than that. A scoop, a Gator, in the containers of Gatorade, the canisters, that scoop is massive.
It is massive.
And 1 serving is not, and it doesn't say, 1 serving is a scoop.
No, but it gives you the scoop.
But it gives you the scoop, so you would be like, oh, this is a serving.
Yeah, easily. And then when you take a sip of it, you're like, woo!
Oh my gosh, that's the strongest Gatorade I've ever had in my life.
Yeah, and you were trying to get 23 grams of carbs, and now you're sitting there
150.
Yeah, 150 carbs, all cracked out on sugar.
Another favorite is like tablespoons, dressings and like peanut butter.
Peanut butter is a big one.
I think these are the two things that people can like really like overconsume some calories on, because they're calorie dense. So like 2 tablespoons of peanut butter, like 28, 32 grams. It just depends on the peanut butter that you use, but it's not very much.
It's not.
And people will be like, oh, they'll take the big like metal tablespoon from your kitchen drawer.
Yeah.
And they'll scoop that out and they'll be like, oh, that's 1 tablespoon, when really it's like 4.
Oh yeah. And you got to put it on a scale, because if you're trying to eyeball it, you would be surprised at like the serving size and what that actually is. Like you're saying, like with the spoon, what you think is accurate and versus what the scale says is accurate can be
Two completely
different things.
And dressings, a lot of people will be like, oh, I ate healthy, or, yeah, I did really good today. I had a salad for dinner or whatever, you know. But what they're not taking into account is, the unmeasured cheese that they put on it, the unmeasured dressing, the unmeasured seeds and nuts,
Sprinkling little bacon bits on there.
All those things add up, and before you know it, you got 1,000-calorie salad, especially like with dressings, because a lot of people favor creamy dressings, especially like ranch, Thousand Island, Caesar, things like that. And those regular like store-bought dressings, they have anywhere from like 12 to 16 grams of fat per serving, which makes the dressing like 200 calories.
Yeah.
When you add in the carbs and stuff too.
So
if you don't measure it, which most people will not, if they're, not accustomed to measuring their food, you're more than likely like getting way more than one serving.
Yeah. And so like go by your serving size. Like even if it says like say for chips, for example, or it's like, or whatever. And it's like 5 chips is a serving. This is all just spitballing. And you just pick out 5 chips and you think you're being accurate. Well, beside that serving size, it's going to have a weight. So they're going by a weight for that measurement. So you may put 5 chips down and it exceeds what that actual like gram measurement was. But you can't always just go by like those rough estimates, like a scoop or a cup or just 5 chips or whatever it is. Like that's why we use the scale and we use the grams, because it's so accurate.
Yep. So that's like the biggest thing. And most people, because of this, because of the inaccuracy in tracking, they end up consuming a lot more calories than they realize. And it's not very hard to do with things like that. Like we said, like ranch, dressings, peanut butter, even nuts. People will be like, oh, I had a handful of nuts. Well, what does a handful of nuts look like to you?
Yeah, it's an actual handful.
Yeah, because we're talking like several hundred calories in nuts, which I'm not saying that nuts are bad. They're not. They're delicious. But at the same time, like if you're trying to lose fat and you're not, you're not tracking these accurately, like you're doing yourself a disservice, and you're kind of the reason why you're not seeing results.
Yeah, and if it was just like one small thing that like, the thing is if you're doing this through measuring all your meals and all your snacks, then that means every one of them could possibly be over, and that's where your overconsumption comes into.
Yeah. So make sure you're using the accurate form of measurement, which is grams. Pretty much every label has a gram measurement on it. Like James said, it'll say like, 2 tablespoons or 5 chips or 28 grams.
Yeah.
So just make sure you're doing grams. Food scales are cheap. You can get them for like $10.
Yeah.
So it's a small price to pay for accuracy in your journey.
That's like the most, when it comes down to like, oh, what do I need to start a fitness journey or to be successful? Like that's one of the most important things. I think if you're going to be managing your nutrition, there's no bigger or better tool than a food scale.
And, you don't have to be like a slave to that scale forever, but until you really get an understanding of what a portion size actually is, like this food scale is your friend.
Yeah. I mean, these companies, And these food companies the label is designed to, they trick you. You even like with spray oils and things like that. You're like, oh, well, this doesn't have hardly anything in it, but how are you measuring that spray? Like more than that serving is coming out when you're trying to spray a pan.
Yeah.
You know, they're sneaky with the wording. They're sneaky with the servings.
Well, and food labels can be up to 20% off, like legally.
Here we go. Like,
So when you're measuring, things that don't have a label, like proteins and veggies and stuff, you can look up the food items in the USDA database and make sure you're looking up the proper thing, So like USDA top sirloin or, USDA shrimp raw. Like you want to look up the data for this, and it'll oftentimes give you a weight. It'll be like 85 grams or 100-gram servings. Like this is what the data is. And then look that up in your food diary settings, whether it's MyFitnessPal, Lose It, et cetera, et cetera. Make sure you're inputting the right one so that,
I agree.
You're getting the right information in there.
So the first one definitely is, measuring correctly. What's our number 2?
It's not logging everything. So a lot of people will, it kind of plays into the first one a bit because a lot of people will like take bites. They'll have little nibbles or they'll use dressings and they won't account for those things. Maybe you have a soda in the middle of the day or a sweet tea, or you go get a coffee from Starbucks. Those calories can all add up really quickly.
Yeah. Or if you get up in the middle of the night and you have a little snacky snack and, it's dark, nobody's watching. Anyway, I mean, this is hypothetical.
You don't know. You don't have
never
experience with that.
I've never been there before. Anyway, let's keep going.
So, make sure you're logging everything. You're tracking those bites and nibbles. Moms, if you lick the spoon of peanut butter after you make your kids sandwiches and there's a lot on there, like you don't know how many calories you're getting in. So those are things to, take into consideration. I know as a mom, like I prep all the meals, I meal prep, I we'll do breakfast sometimes, like whatever. And it's easy for me to consume extra calories because I'm a nibbler. I taste everything as I go. So that's something that I have to be mindful of when I'm like intentionally cutting my macros.
Right.
Number 3 mistake. This is a big one too. And it's not using the right like form when you're tracking. So a lot of people will track their food cooked instead of raw. And most nutritional data is based on raw data. So, when you look up USDA chicken breast, it's based on raw data, not cooked. So if you need 6 ounces of chicken breast and you weigh 6 ounces cooked, you're actually getting 8 ounces roughly because in the cooking process, proteins lose about 25% of their weight.
I made this mistake. Early on, a long time ago, first prep. I was supposed to be eating 8 ounces of beef, 8 ounces of chicken, and I was eating 8 ounces cooked.
Yeah.
And I was so, I know a little TMI, I was always gassy and bloated and busting ass in the gym, and I couldn't understand why. And I mean, I went an entire prep overeating my protein. I was like, why am I doing 2 hours of cardio? And it's because I was overeating all day.
So that's a big one. Things like oats and rice, those things all, they all have like the raw data on the back of the package. And it'll be like a quarter of a cup or what is it, like 45 grams, something like that.
It's dry weight.
So it's based on dry weight. If you're going to use cooked weight, then you need to search that entry and, type in, chicken breast cooked or white rice cooked so that you're getting the accurate, like, nutritional data there.
Yeah, and whichever one you're using, stick with it. Like, don't just keep flip-flopping around. Like, you're doing one thing raw, one thing this way. Like, find what, stick with one.
I know that a lot of people, when it comes to cooked versus raw, like, you feel overwhelmed. Well, like, if I cook in bulk, how do I do that? Like, you just weigh all of your stuff together. So if you're doing, you know, if you need a cup of rice for 4 meals, it's a quarter of a cup piece, right? You would weigh that out, so 45 grams, if that's the weight, times 4. What's that?
48 times 4.
45 times 4, 90, 180.
Okay. What did she said?
So you need 180 grams of rice, right? Dry. So you weigh that out, you cook it, and once it's cooked, then you weigh it again and you divide that number by 4. And I know I lost a ton of people when I started talking about this. Numbers, math, it's not a strong suit for many people, but it's really not hard once you get the system down. You weigh it dry, and then after it's cooked, you weigh it again, you divide it by the number of meals that you had pre-measured, and that's the weight cooked. So it's pretty easy once you get that going.
I have nothing to say on that. like, just to be honest, I would just look up the cooked weight, and that's the one I'm going with. But I do know, and with my own experience, like say we made rice, and I'm doing my meal prep. When it's freshly made, there's more water in it, and so it weighs more. And as the week continues, it gets less and less and less. So what you can do to make sure that you're accurate, if you have room in your refrigerator, is to measure it all out ahead of time. Like, go ahead and put them in containers. That way it is the same weight each day, and those little fluctuations in the water, it's not throwing it off. Or you can just put it in a Ziploc bag and hope for the best.
Like you do.
Like I do.
All right. So number 4. A lot of people use macros, and they like to say, if it fits your macros, it doesn't matter as long as it fits your macros.
If it fits, it fits.
Yeah. I mean, is it wrong? No, it's not wrong. But, a lot of people use if it fits your macros to still live the same type of lifestyle and make less than ideal choices for long-term health. Just because it fits your macros. Because it fits your macros, it doesn't mean you should eat like that all the time. You should still be choosing nutrient-dense foods 80% of the time.
Yeah.
Because your body still has basic nutritional needs. And if you're filling your body, with processed stuff all the time that, is less nutrient, a lot of times in a diet cycle, like a fat loss phase, you're going to feel like a lot of hunger when you're not picking nutrient dense foods, with fiber and protein to help keep you full longer. And when you eat these processed foods, a lot of processed foods are made to be super palatable. So they have a high combination of fats and salt and sugar that make you crave them more. And they kind of they don't contribute to gut health.
Yeah.
And that can increase your cravings as well. But that's a whole other topic.
They're very calorie dense, and you're trading it off for a larger volume of clean food, So yeah, it may fit, but the volume of this may be the same calories, same macros, but the volume of food is going to be less. So you are going to you may feel hunger, and then also, nobody feels great after eating a bunch of fast food, even if it fits.
Well, the thing is people don't realize that they feel like shit eating the food that they eat until they don't eat the food they eat.
Oh, I agree with that.
And 100%. Then they have they're like, okay, you know what? I'm going to go have a burger or whatever. And then they go and eat that burger after they've eaten more nutrient dense foods. I don't like to say clean, dirty foods. I just like to say wholesome, more nutritious, Okay. But they go and they'll eat a burger, something that's highly palatable. And then you get a crash, you're bloated, you have stomach pains, maybe
inflammation.
Maybe you're gassy, and then you realize, wow, I really did feel like shit when I was eating this all the time.
Yeah.
And it motivates you to keep eating more nutrient dense foods, more wholesome choices, because you realize how much better you feel and how much more energy you have too.
How better your digestion is, and just everything, every process in your body. When the inflammation's down, things just work better.
Yeah, your skin is clearer, you sleep better, your energy levels increase, your
bowel movements
are regular. There's a whole bunch of reasons
Your
why
performance is better.
Yeah.
I mean, just hands down. I mean,
So I think that, there's a time and a place like to have fun with your macros, and, you know, you can still make nutrient dense choices and have fun with your foods, like
yeah,
there's ways to make, like, you don't have to, I don't know how to say this the right way, but we still have a lot of fun with our food.
I have a
Even
lot of fun with our food.
even when we're being mindful, like I can take a very like a wholesome ingredient and I can make it fun, like I can make tacos and still hit all my macro goals and like hit my micronutrients too.
Yeah.
You don't have to do one or the other. You just have to understand how to make better choices and better substitutions, you know.
I agree with that, and we also like, we enjoy simpler foods. Like it not snowballs, but like once you start eating a certain way for a while, like you really, like you're saying, you start seeing the effects. You like start feeling better, and you start embracing it. And even like I can see all these other foods now, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, like I understand, like taste wise, like it's probably amazing, but like all I see is like, oh, my body's not going to react well to this, and I want to make good choices, and yeah, Brittany does it well.
It's funny because we're just like everybody else. Like we get tired. I get tired of cooking. And
yeah, we get tired of cooking. we
get tired of cooking. And then I'll be like, okay, you're going to do dinner tonight. And he'll be like, okay, what am I picking up? Like, that's his idea of cooking for the family. Whatever. Anyways, we, like I do get tired of cooking meals and we'll order out, we'll get pizza or we'll get burritos or something. And every single time we order some of these things, we pay for
instant regret.
Like our heart rate is
my heart's pounding.
Yeah, our heart rate is higher for the rest of the night. Our stomach will be super bloated and
thirsty.
inflamed.
Sitting there chugging water.
My gosh, we're drinking like 60 ounces of water before bed.
I'm like, well, I'll be up peeing all night.
Yeah.
Great.
So you really do notice a difference when you make these choices 80% of the time.
Yeah,
minimum.
I mean, yeah, we're perfectly aware of the cost of it. And sometimes, like it's just that time. Like we need a diet break, we need a mental break, and we'll have those meals. But sometimes they go well, and sometimes they don't. And yeah, on a day-to-day basis, on a normal basis, like I enjoy cleaner foods. I love simpler foods. My body likes it better. And you cook it well. Like you cook it in a pleasurable way. Anyway, sorry.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right. So last but not least, I think this is probably, again, like one of the most important ones is you're inconsistent with your logging.
Ooh.
So you're logging, maybe you're on point and super accurate. You're doing all the right things and you're tracking Monday through Thursday, and then Friday comes and you disappear. You fall off the grid. You throw caution to the wind and you just have a fuck it moment. And you're like, you know what? I'm doing this all weekend. Monday rolls around and then you're like
I feel like shit.
But then you're like, I don't know why I'm not making any progress. Like it's because you're doing really well during the week, but when the weekend comes, you're not following any type of structure and you're over consuming calories. Like you might have been in a calorie deficit leading up to Friday. And then because you just had a fuck it weekend, every weekend.
Yeah. I mean,
like your weekends absolutely can wreck your progress because we're talking about multiple days here. We're not talking about one meal. We're talking about multiple days.
3 days,
a lot of
meals,
people who drink all weekend, drink every night during the weekend. And then when you're drinking, you're making, drunk food choices. Your intuition isn't the best, like your cravings when you're drinking are typically like,
your decision making is terrible.
You typically crave that combination of fats and salts, foods that.
Yeah, you're not drinking. You're like, you know what sounds good? white fish and asparagus.
Yeah. No, it's like, I want to go to Waffle House.
Yeah, I'm gonna fuck up some Waffle House.
Taco Bell,
all the crystals.
Yeah.
Like, you're making bad, like, and if you are like on a weight loss journey and you're in a calorie deficit, depending on your coach or whatever, you're not gonna be in like an extreme deficit. Like, you are in a deficit, but it's not a very big deficit. It's enough to make a difference. It compounds over the days, week by week.
Yeah.
Right. So you're not in that much of a calorie deficit, and then you're saying fuck it on the weekend. So now you're in a calorie surplus for days. So you may have took 2 steps forward on your journey. On that weekend, man, you took 3 steps back, and you're sadly, you're in a worse place on Monday than you were the week prior.
And then for women in general, our hormones fluctuate through the month. And there are certain times of the month when things will just stick on our bodies a little bit more. In particular, like that second half of your, period, the late luteal phase, like your weight will probably be the highest at this point.
Yeah.
And it's not like an abnormal thing, even if you're on point with your diet all the time. But if you're doing these things and, you're making these choices around this time, like, you're probably going to pay for them more. You'll feel more bloated. It'll hang around a little bit longer, and it probably won't drop until after you start your period. And then you're leading into, ovulation.
Yeah. And say you're having these fucking moments on the weekend, and then the monthly cycle comes around, and then you're having a week where you're off. It's easy to see how somebody could be really struggling and like, I don't know why I'm not getting results, or why, it's taking so long, or why am I still this? It's because
you have to look at everything as a whole.
You have to look at everything. Yeah, you may do really good for a few days, but this is a game of consistency and over the long haul. I'm not saying that you can't have some fluctuations in more of a, work on an 80-20 rule, but if you're only doing well 30% of the time, it's not going to play out well.
Yeah. And that's like you said, like, consistency is key in this. And it doesn't mean you have to be super strict and regimented. Like, you can have fun still. You just have to account for that fun.
Yeah.
If you're going to go out and drink, what are you like, and you have fat loss goals. Again, this is like if you have fat loss goals,
this is
okay?
The worst.
If you're going out drinking, what are you giving up earlier in the day to account for that? And you still, like, you need to prioritize your protein too. Like, that still needs to be a priority no matter what, whether you're eating out or not. Now, if you're having a free meal, whatever, like, that's a different story. But if, you want to go out every weekend, you need to account for that. And, you can account for that in different ways, whether you eat less during the week and give yourself a little bit more on the weekends. But then you have to keep in mind that you can't eat too little during the week because your body still needs a basic amount of calories to function.
Yeah.
Because then you can cause other issues like hormone disruptions and stuff like that. But you have to account for all of it is basically what it comes down to.
Having those bucket weekends and the heavy drinking and stuff, like, it just compounds and really can wreak havoc on somebody's fitness journey. Not saying don't drink, I'm not saying that. I don't, but you don't have to. Anyway, it just can cause a lot. It can snowball into a very bad situation to where you're struggling with your fitness journey and kind of setting yourself up for failure, honestly.
Yep. I think that's probably one of the biggest things when it comes to this is, like, a lot of people, they want the results and they'll work hard during the week. It's easier to stay in a routine and everything, but they also want to have their fun too, which is great because that's what life is about. It's about having fun and making memories and stuff. But if you want or even need to prioritize your health, like, if you need to lose body weight for health reasons, then you have to look at the bigger picture here. And, you might temporarily have to make some sacrifices to attain these goals, to improve your overall health so that you can enjoy these things long term.
Yeah.
Because if you don't take care of yourself now, you will be forced to later. And it will be costly because you're going to be sick and medicated. And
doctor visits are not cheap. Treatments is not cheap.
And it's not getting any better, you know? So these are things that you need to think about and take into consideration when you're frustrated. You know, I'm tracking macros, but I'm not seeing results. Like, there's multiple reasons why that could be.
And some of these could be unintentional. Like we were talking about, like the measuring and all this stuff. But some of this is choices.
Yeah. And it's really like you need to be able to step back and look at your habits
objectively
and own them too. Like if you're not making progress, you can't, like when Monday rolls around, you know, you can't complain like, oh, I'm not making progress. Like, I don't know why. Like, do you really not know why, or do you just not want to accept why? Because a lot of times, you know, you are standing in your own way and your habits are what's keeping you from making more progress.
Yeah. You believe in your own bullshit.
Yeah. And I mean, I've been there. Like, I get it.
Yeah. I mean, we don't speak about this stuff just because we heard about it. Yeah. I mean, we've been there.
So we hope that this helps some of you out. If you've been struggling with macros, maybe, you know, like James said, you unintentionally have been using cups and tablespoons to measure, or you eyeball it, you know, like if you've never tracked macros before, how are you going to eyeball what 4 ounces of chicken looks like?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you have no idea what 4 ounces of chicken looks like. You have no idea what 28 grams of peanut butter looks like.
But we've been doing this a while now. Like, sometimes I can, you know, I'm still measuring it, but I can freehand it and I'll put it on the scale. And I'm like, boom. Look at that. And I'm such a nerd. I'm like, babe, come look at this. Look at this. I nailed it. First try.
And that's the truth. Like, I can do the same thing, you know?
It's crazy, though, what you can get good at just with repetition.
Yeah, repetition and consistency.
Like, I can grab 6 ounces of chicken barehanded.
Weigh it out perfectly.
Perfectly to the gram.
All right. Well, this was a great episode.
Awesome episode.
We're always open to, you know, topic suggestions, or if there's anything in particular that you're struggling with that maybe you feel like others might be struggling with, send us a message. Make a post in the Facebook group. Comment in one of the Facebook group chats.
I guarantee you, if it's something you're struggling with, there's somebody else.
Yeah.
And we would love to talk about it.
And there's no stupid questions either. Like, you can ask all the questions. Like, especially in the Facebook group, I moderate it very heavily. Like, I don't tolerate bullying or any type of BS like that. The Facebook group is just for women. Sorry, fellas. We haven't gotten to the fella side.
I'm working on it.
But you know, we are there. If you have questions, you can always reach out to Coach James. But yeah, that's all I got.
That's all I got.
All right. Well,
till next time.
Yep. You just gonna cut me off like that?
Yeah, I'm taking control of this podcast. Welcome to the James Show. Coach James.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening to Macros, Mindset, and Muscles. Until next time.
I'm James.
I'm Brittany. We're out.